If I don't laugh at someone's joke, it's just because my internet is delayed and I hadn't heard it yet. Not that it's not funny.
It's okay. I know I'm not funny.
I'm hilarious and I expect you to laugh at all of my jokes, even if you don't hear them.
Welcome to another episode of Miglight Crisis, a real podcast hosted by three grown adults revisiting books from our teens, and it's totally cool. And, it's pretty chill this episode, because we didn't have to read Twilight or Midnight Sun. But we're still gonna talk about it.
Why? Why did we do this to ourselves?
And not only did we finish the books and be like, wow, what a relief. Now we better keep talking about them.
Yep. You know, just prolonging
Which
it.
was our own choice. So, since we don't have to go into a summary of either book, since by this point, I think we remember what happened.
Yeah, should we maybe introduce ourselves first?
Oh yeah, that's where we're supposed to do first. Yep.
Yeah.
It's totally thrown me off that we aren't reading these books. Oh god. Okay, well, I'm one of the hosts, and I am Sophie, and I have a randomly generated YA title for today, and mine is The Cat of Bone and the Internet.
Oh my goodness.
Which, kind of cool, I guess.
That's like some sort of YA contemporary, right?
Yeah. Or like urban fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Does the cat do magic with the bone?
Oh, I thought the cat was made of bone.
Oh!
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also what I assumed. And it's like, the sidekick.
Yeah, the familiar.
Anyway, what about you guys? Who are you?
My name is Sam, and my YA title of today is The Semester of Knights and the Universe. And that's Knights with a K, as in my knight in shining armor.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah.
That changes things.
Yeah.
That, a semester like school?
Apparently, a semester of Knights in the Universe. So I'm assuming this is a YA fantasy, a la dark academia, with YA female protagonist getting swept away by a knight in shining armor, and then they discover the multiverse and travel through the multiverse.
Okay.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
That's my theory.
Hell yeah. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's pretty good.
It sounds honestly, the title sounds more like, what are the sections within a book? Like, not the title of the book, but it's like the second section.
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2 would be the Semester of Knights.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you said.
The universe. The multiverse.
Yeah.
Multiverse. Wow.
What about you, the third person on our podcast?
Yeah, third person.
Hello, I'm the third person. My name is Hannah, and my randomly generated YA title for today is A Ghost of Thorns and Fun.
Oh. Wow. Just a fun ghost.
Yeah.
Fun ghost with thorns who just wants to have fun, but his thorns are scary.
Some kind of plant ghost?
Oh, a plant ghost.
Of all the plants we've murdered?
Oh, it's like the Pokemon.
Oh.
There's a tree Pokemon ghost. It's a grass ghost type in the new one. Or
Trevenant, right? It's an
yeah.
Is that Gen 5? I don't remember.
I don't know either. I just know I have one.
I think I'm too Catholic for this because I see a ghost of thorns and I'm like, Jesus. I don't know how much fun Jesus had. He was a pretty serious kind of fella, but...
Yeah, maybe that's what, the whole story is about. How in his afterlife, Jesus is gonna have a cool time.
Oh, you know what? This is an Easter story. Because you have the ghost of Jesus, and it's a lot of fun. Easter is fun, you guys. Okay?
Is Easter fun?
Easter is fun.
Okay.
There's, eggs. Let's move on. Before I get excommunicated.
Yeah, so we figured we'd do, a recap of all of our feelings. About these books, because we had a lot of them.
We did.
Clearly, since we talked for 25 hours.
My God.
That's embarrassing.
If you think
Don't say
about
that.
it.
I mean, if you really think about it, it's more.
It's way more.
Nope, I refuse to think about it.
Sam and I saw each other in person for the first time like a couple weeks ago since the pandemic.
Like 2 months ago by the time this comes out.
True. And literally half the time we spent talking about Twilight.
Why?
I don't know.
I think it was my boyfriend's fault. I'm pretty sure he brought something up because he had just listened to like the last edit of the last episode with us or with me.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he brought something up about my Venom theory. Hashtag Team Wet.
Nope.
And
Nope.
It's his fault.
It's his fault.
I like blaming him for things because he's not here to defend himself.
Yeah. As long as we don't blame one of the 3 people here. Yeah, it's his fault.
It's his fault. He can only be mad at you, Sam.
Yeah, this is true. I'm the one who always brings him up too. Oops.
Well, fair.
Love does funny things to you guys. Anyways.
Like, make you...
Talk about Twilight?
I was gonna say...
friend?
Yeah.
Go on a date in the woods with a vampire, and then...
Oh yeah. Get back on track.
Meet his family.
All within 3 days.
You know.
After he was an asshole to you for 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so let's start maybe by, before we get into how much we are angry, let's talk about maybe like a recap of how we felt about Twilight in the Twilight era, because obviously we all had like a different experience with Twilight, and we can compare it to how we feel now, which I'm sure is not at all different.
No. We did talk about this in our prologue episode, but that was last year, and we were all nervous and perhaps a little bit drunk.
Plus, like, maybe we had forgotten a lot of things about Twilight and all the ephemera around it.
Imagine.
I'm not naming any names. Imagine if someone had forgotten maybe the whole thing.
Imagine.
I wonder who that was.
I guess I'll go first, as the person who probably remembered the most about Twilight. I don't know. I read Twilight before New Moon came out. I read Twilight like pretty much when Twilight came out, and then was, I don't know, nonplussed about everything that followed. But I did read all the books and watch all the movies. But yeah, I wasn't super into Twilight at the time. Obviously, I was an ambivalent Team Jacob.
And now you are so into Twilight.
And now
wow.
I'm so into Twilight, and I'm Team Bella.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I also wrote, as was mentioned in a previous episode, I wrote some Twilight fanfiction, but it was literally after New Moon, and it was that Bella got over Edward.
Good.
And that was the whole fanfiction.
That seems like a good plot line.
Yeah. So that's the summary of my Twilight experience. How about you guys?
Oh, I don't... I think I've already alluded to mine, but I guess... So I used to love Twilight. We all know this. I used to be on a Twilight YouTube channel. I read Twilight in grade 10. I think Eclipse was already out. Yeah. And then I went to the midnight release of Breaking Dawn. I was irrevocably in love with the series. And yeah.
Did you maybe own like any clothes or
I mean,
anything?
There's no proof that it ever existed. So
okay, so no, definitely no.
There's definitely not a t-shirt somewhere out in the world or the multiverse where I am photoshopped on that t-shirt marrying Edward Cullen. Like that would be ridiculous.
You know what the best thing about the multiverse is that there's one universe where Sam still owns that shirt and is wearing it right now.
Oh no.
I hope to meet that Sam.
I don't.
Yeah, I wish I was in that multiverse.
I'm glad I'm not. Anyways, Hannah, how about you?
Yeah, as for me, I think I'm somewhere in between the two of you. I also didn't read Twilight until Eclipse had come out. I got the first 3 as a boxed set. I do remember people talking about how good Twilight was, and because I was and am a dirty little hipster, I refused to read it based on the fact that it was super popular for like a couple years. And then I read it and I was like, oh damn, this is actually pretty good. So I thoroughly enjoyed the series. I read it many times. I was not as like fanatical as some people I could mention. I do have hardcover copies of all of the books, as well as the short Second Life of Bree Tanner, which was like the companion novella to Eclipse.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch all the movies in theaters?
Yes.
I went to the midnight release of Twilight, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I went to any midnight releases, but I had a couple friends in high school who are really into it, so we would go to them together. I remember one lady, which movie was it? I think it might have been the first one. Oh yeah, because I didn't see Breaking Dawn in theaters because that came out when I was in university and I had better things to do.
Yeah.
But I think with Twilight the first, my 2 friends and I were like chatting in the very, very packed theater. It was like opening weekend, I think, before the movie started. And this lady who might have been about the age we are now, so like late 20s, maybe early 30s, like turned around and said like, "Are you going to talk the whole time?"
Oh.
And we were like, "The previews haven't even started yet." I was like, "No, we're going to watch the movie." Like,
yeah.
When the movie starts, when she was so mad.
Oh god.
We were all fans when it was like age appropriate, but there was a whole demographic of like Twilight moms.
That scares me.
Yeah, having read it now as an adult, that's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as they weren't recommending it to teens, I don't think there's harm in them thinking it's great for them.
I definitely don't think it's harmful. I just think I guess I just question why they liked it when they were so far outside the demographic that it's intended for, and it's like clearly not actually a very good book.
Yep. Well, we'll get into that after we talk about how we feel about the books now. Obviously, we have only read Twilight and Midnight Sun, though, like, no joke, I had a moment after we finished recording the last episode, and I was like, man, we finished Twilight. I nearly opened New Moon.
I really
like
want to
that
read
night
New Moon now.
to read it. I was like, I really want to just reread this.
Yep.
Which, like, what a compelling book to make me almost do that.
That's a good point.
Even while we were reading Twilight, there were a couple moments where we were like, I really kind of just wanted to read the next Twilight chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we'll get into that later. But yeah, just to talk, listen.
We're going in circles.
We know we're going in circles, and all we do is do tangents in the normal episode. So when we break from that structure, it's just chaos. So anyway, we thrive in chaos.
I thrive in chaos.
I don't. I tested very poorly in flexibility and stress management on a recent personality test that I did.
You know, having worked with you, I think I could have guessed that.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway.
Back on track.
Current opinions.
Yes.
Go, everybody. Okay, at the same time. No.
That's
chaos.
Hold on. Coming back to Twilight and reading Midnight Sun for the first time, obviously is not the intended way to read these books.
Mm-hmm.
But there were some good things about Twilight. Like I said, I wanted to keep reading it at certain points. It's an easy read. It's like quick, snappy, there's like stuff happens really quickly, and I was, enjoying parts of it. But I mean, I think that all of the criticism that was leveled at Twilight is still deserved. And so many parts of it made me so uncomfortable to read, even as an adult who like knows what these things are now. It's like, man, just putting this out into the teen world.
Yeah.
No good. So like, I don't think I like Twilight as much as I liked it before, which was somewhere in the middle ground. And I really didn't like Midnight Sun. Again, there were some parts that were cool, but I really didn't like Midnight Sun. How about you, Sam?
I mean, I was fully obsessed, so like it could really only go down from that. Like, I agree with you, Sophie. I think Twilight on its own is a quick YA read that you can just kind of dissociate from and just kind of read and be fine with. There's obviously problems and criticisms which are all fair, and as an adult I am now aware of, whereas a teenager I would have told you you're wrong. Twilight is a masterpiece and it's the best piece of literature ever created.
Yeah.
But now I think back to my Twilight days and I cringe slightly, but I don't know, reading it again though, I liked Bella better. I didn't remember Bella being, I guess, as sassy and like standing up for herself as much as she actually did. So that was like a nice reminder. And then as far as Midnight Sun goes, I did read the 10 chapters that got leaked because I am a horrible person, but that's fine. Don't pirate your books, guys. It's bad. Support
I've never done that.
Yep. But and I remember loving it because Edward is the best to 16-year-old, 17-year-old Sam.
Yeah.
I honestly, if it was not for this podcast, I would not have gotten past, like, I think chapter 3 or 4. Like, that was...
Yeah.
That book is horrible. I can't. So, I had something else to say, but my brain has malfunctioned. So, Hannah, do you want to take it over?
You started thinking about Midnight Sun, and all other thoughts just went away in a haze of frustration.
Yep. I filmed a TikTok today, and I had it like my bookcase, and Midnight Sun is on my top shelf, and I had to move it because I was like, no, it can't be here. It can't be in the shot.
No.
Don't even want to look at this.
Yeah. So.
I judge book talk people who have Midnight Sun visible. I'm like, get that out of here. Absolutely out of here. I don't want to see it.
No, done.
As for me, I mean, you guys kind of covered my current Twilight opinions. Shockingly, after spending 25 hours together discussing Twilight, our opinions have kind of coalesced and are very similar.
Yeah.
So what they said, but also I didn't read it critically at all as a kid. I just kind of enjoyed it for what it made me feel, which, to be fair, is also still how I read books. I know a lot of people get enjoyment out of critical analysis, but outside of the context of this podcast, I am definitely like an emotional reader, and I like books based on how they make me feel.
So, like, sad mostly?
I do like books that make me sad. Shout out to Rosaria Munda, who made me cry 3 times in Flamefall.
Yep.
It was great. My heart is broken. I had dreams about it last night. What were we talking about? Twilight? Oh. Sorry, I was busy thinking about Annie Sarayla, who is the light of my life right now.
Yep.
Yeah, Twilight. I also liked Bella a lot more this time around and was able to like pick out more of an actual character because I didn't remember her having a character at all.
Yeah.
And, you know, she does have a little bit more of a personality. Edward's personality is a lot worse than I remember it being. You know. Yeah, I also had something else to say, but now I'm thinking about Flamefall and it's gone. Midnight Sun. Listen, you know how we feel about Midnight Sun. It's terrible.
Like, it's almost like the book was written really well.
Yeah.
But I just hate Edward so much.
Yeah. I do think in terms of the writing, it is structurally better, but it's so overly purple in places that it's like, you should have edited this.
Yep.
I definitely see where all of it came in, but it was so repetitive in a lot of places that it's like, you did not need to make this book this long. It's like, what is it, like 200 something pages longer than Twilight? And it did not have to be.
Nope.
Yeah.
if it had added a lot more new content to justify that length, I would have been totally down with it. But the fact that it is almost the exact same content, and there are only a few new scenes added, and it is 200 pages longer than the original, is ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I do think, I know I've said this before, but since we're summarizing, it's worth reiterating. Mm-hmm. I think I would have enjoyed both Twilight and Midnight Sun more in this, like, reading as an adult if I had been able to just kind of, like, binge through them and not do them one chapter at a time and have to, like, stop and think about every chapter.
Yeah.
This is certainly not a book that stands up well to critical analysis, as you, the listener, may have noticed through the last 25 hours of us devolving into, like, venom-based insanity. So I do want to read it again in, like, a year or so, when I can just sit through and, like, read it over the course of a weekend and see how I feel about it then. But right now I don't like it.
See, that's, like, wild. I can't even think of rereading it, because I remember every, like, day before we recorded and reading it, like, I had to slog through those chapters.
Yeah,
like,
same.
It was not enjoyable for me, because, like, Edward just goes on and on and on, and I am a melodramatic person. Like, I am an overthinker. I understand. But it was so much for me. So, like, I can't even imagine rereading this book. And it's like, I genuinely think if I had just been reading this for enjoyment, I wouldn't have finished it. And it would have just been a 1-star read for me. But because I finished the entire book, I can't give it 1 star. I have to give it 2 stars because I read the whole thing. But, like, trust me, deep in my soul, this is, I would have DNF'd it.
I feel pretty comfortable having rated it 2 stars. That seems like the right spot for me personally.
That's good.
Yeah. I almost feel like Midnight Sun suffers from the fact that Stephenie Meyer was trying to make it something that you could read conceivably if you hadn't read Twilight.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Because she includes the entire Twilight plot.
Yeah.
As the structure of the book. And so, like, she has to work around these, like, massive chunks that obviously don't suit the style of her writing now.
Yeah.
And so, like, I almost feel like if she just, you know, committed and been like, whoever is reading this book knows Twilight back to front, upside down, in and out, you know, and then just hand waved a lot of what was in Twilight or summarized it or whatever.
Yeah.
Or skipped entire sections.
Yeah.
And then focused more on, like, what was the vampire family doing? What was, you know, Edward actually thinking about certain things instead of, as we've said a million times, like in Twilight, it said he frowned. And then in Midnight Sun, it said he frowned because he was angry. And it's like, that doesn't help.
I can remember off the top of my head one scene right near the beginning of the books where the conversation between Bella and Edward isn't just, like, copy-pasted dialogue. There's one where she summarizes part of the dialogue in Twilight and then includes whatever is important for, like, the actual Twilight plotline. And then in Midnight Sun, she does it the opposite way, where the conversation they have in Twilight that is, like, more relevant to Bella's story is just kind of summarized in prose, and then she adds more dialogue between Bella and Edward as they're getting to know each other that was kind of hand-waved away in Twilight. And that is good. There should have been more of that. I wish there had been
such
more
high hopes.
I agree.
After that, I'm re-listening to a lot of the episodes, and that episode I just listened to it, and we're like, man, I hope the rest of the book is like this. This was awesome. And it's like, it's like chapter 8.
Oh my god.
If only we knew.
Yeah. Sophie's preparing for something fun for our next episode, doing all of these re-listens, so make sure you tune into the next one. I think it's going to be even more fun, dare I say, than this one. I'm really excited.
It's going to be good.
How is that possible?
I know. This episode is our best so far.
It involves me listening to everything at, like, 3 times speed, which is just wild. I'm getting through it real fast.
Wow. How do we sound at 3 times speed?
A lot more concise.
Yeah. I bet our collective tendency to giggle is just incredibly obnoxious at 3 times, huh?
Oh, man.
It goes by real quick, though. I have a game to play this episode, though. If you guys are down.
Okay.
Always.
A fun
I like games.
Twilight game.
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna play the Twilight analytics game.
No.
Oh.
No, it's basically just like a quiz.
I didn't study.
Just for some fun Twilight facts. Hold on.
I feel at a bit of a disadvantage given that I have like issues remembering numbers for longer than about 10 minutes. And Sam is a data scientist with a statistics degree.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm being set up to fail here. Carry on, let's do it.
Not all of them are numbers. Only most of them.
Oh, well, that's comforting.
We're going to start with not an easy one, but the big one, which is how many copies do you think, since the books came out, has the Twilight series as a whole sold? It is on the list of best-selling books of all time.
Oh, wow.
And it is not very far down.
A couple million? 2 or 3 million?
I'm gonna go 1 billion.
The Twilight series as a whole. How about I give you some surrounding data?
Okay.
So, of the top grossing... Well, do you want to guess what the top grossing series of all time is of any book?
Top grossing series?
Yeah, Harry Potter.
Oh. One of those, like, giant epic fantasy ones? Maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Game of Thrones, or, like, Dune, or is it Wheel of Time that everyone likes?
I mean, you're gonna be mad. No, it's super obvious.
So it's not Harry Potter?
It's not Harry Potter?
Did Sam say Harry Potter? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed
that.
Okay. It is Harry Potter.
Oh, okay, yeah. I said Harry Potter.
Harry Potter is 500 million copies.
Okay, see,
of the series, and that is like number one of all time.
Okay, so like
500 million is top.
350 million ish.
285 million.
Dang, you were both too high.
Oh.
Okay. The Twilight series, all the books, sold 160 million copies.
Dang, that's so many.
Which is still a lot.
That's still a lot, yeah.
Yeah. What place is it in?
It is in 14th place.
Oh.
Wow.
Some of the series that are above it are obviously Harry Potter's the top one. I only picked a couple of the ones that I knew to list, but
yes,
like Goosebumps, Berenstain Bears, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Nancy Drew, Babysitter's Club are a couple that are above it.
Huh. All kids' books.
Yeah. Because I imagine like of series, try and think of series that have like a lot of books.
Yeah, well that's why I went to like fantasy.
Do you know what's 15th on the list? One below Twilight?
It's One Hannah Hates.
Is it
Divergent?
Mm-mm. Oh, it's definitely not One Hannah Hates.
Wait, is it One Hannah Loves?
It's One Hannah Loves.
Is it Star Wars?
It's Star Wars!
Oh!
Hey!
I mean, that makes sense, yeah.
There's a lot of books that are Star Wars books.
Yeah. But still, one below Twilight.
That's upsetting. I'm gonna go buy a bunch of Star Wars books.
Yeah. Go buy a bunch of books. As a fun fact, on the UK 100 best-selling books of all time list, it is 12th down instead of 14th. And it's only below Harry Potter, the 2 Dan Brown books, Angels and Demons, Da Vinci Code. And ironically, it's below 50 Shades of Grey.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Man, I've been on Book Talk long enough now to realize that I had no idea how overwhelmingly horny the majority of readers are.
Yeah.
I'm not like a horny reader, so it didn't really occur to me, but now that I've seen more of the world, I believe it.
Yep.
I'm an in-between on that for sure. Like, I like my horny books, but I also like non-horny books. But, like, the whole raunchy romance and smut side of books is intense. And I think
it's a lot.
Wait, Sophie, is this one of your questions? Like, what's the top grossing genre in books?
No.
Or whatever? Okay, because I'm pretty sure I saw something on this the other day, and it's romance.
Oh, wow.
Romance authors just, like, pump those books out like crazy, and, like, women eat them up.
Ladies be horny.
I mean, there's a reason that, like, 50 Shades of Grey and Da Vinci Code are, like, next to each other on the UK.
Is Da Vinci Code also horny?
No!
No.
Like, the Da Vinci Code is, like... I don't know. That was, like, my pretentious book when I was in high school, because I was like, oh, look at me. I read Da Vinci Code. I'm so fucking smart.
I'm not like other girls.
Yeah.
I meant me also. I also read those ones.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't, but I had other pretentious books.
Yeah.
I didn't read Dan Brown because he was too popular.
That's
and
fair.
As mentioned, I'm a disgusting hipster.
Wait, why would Da Vinci Code be right there with 50 Shades of Grey, though? Because, like, that is two very different demographics. One's white men, one's white women.
Well, those are actually pretty similar demographics.
Yeah, that's true, actually. What am I saying?
Yeah.
I just assumed I missed the joke.
Oh, I mostly just meant it in the fact that, like, if I said, what is the #1 best-selling book of all time in the UK, and I said Da Vinci Code, you would not be surprised.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's true.
But also, if I was like 50 Shades of Grey, you're like, I wish I wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I was surprised.
That would be a really interesting book to listen to somebody else do a podcast about, and like how it became the phenomenon that it was, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
No, me neither.
We're certainly not going to read that one.
Oh god, absolutely not.
Okay, back into the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
A non-number question.
Oh good.
Since Harry Potter, like, absolutely blew Twilight out of the water in every conceivable way, what Twilight book in the series do you think finally got above a Harry Potter book?
Eclipse? Eclipse is the best one.
I think it was Twilight still. I think it was the first one. Because, like, I feel like the hype got everyone, so, like, everyone went out and bought the first one, but maybe didn't necessarily go into the whole series. I'm guessing Twilight.
My first guess would be Eclipse, but a close second was Breaking Dawn, because...
Yeah.
What the fuck was Breaking Dawn?
The worst.
Either way, it's not New Moon.
No.
Yeah, great point. I realized I could be wrong because I think it's Eclipse, but I realize now it just said Eclipse came out and got the Twilight series above Harry Potter. So it could have been the book Twilight that was actually above. I guess it was the series, but it was Eclipse.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Huzzah!
Wow.
And because of that, what year do you think Twilight was the best-selling series of the year?
2008.
2008?
Yeah. 2008, which also
yeah!
All that
the movie and Eclipse, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The two together.
We got that one down.
Yay.
Hells yeah.
So,
high five.
Do you have a guess on how many weeks... Good job, guys. How many weeks total do you think the series has spent on the bestseller list?
Oh. And how many are the bestsellers? Is it like top 10, top 100?
Oh, that's a great question.
Okay, we'll just skip that part. We don't need that data for this.
Yeah.
How many weeks?
How many weeks?
Yes, how many weeks?
200? A little less than 200? That would be like 3 or 4 years, but that feels like it could be true.
199.
Oh! The series as a whole has spent 235 weeks.
Wow!
Damn.
That was a pretty good guess.
The New York Times bestseller list for children's series books.
Okay.
Oh no.
Children.
Yep.
Children.
All you children out there, go read Breaking Dawn. It's perfectly appropriate for you.
Children.
Yep.
When there's dick venom.
I mean, they don't talk about the dick venom until Breaking Dawn.
Oh my god.
Breaking Dawn is not... I mean, I guess it is a teen book, but
can I just remind you that Sarah J. Maas is also a teen book?
Yeah. I thought like ACOTAR was like new adult, but I don't actually know.
It is. It is technically new adult, but
when I finished A Court of Silver Flames, I checked where it was in chapters on their website because I needed to know it was far away from the children's section.
Yeah.
And it's apparently shelved in fantasy.
Okay. Yeah, I think they moved the entire series over with the release of Silver Flames because of how sexual Silver Flames was. So they couldn't have the series in YA anymore because it led to that. So they moved the entire series over to fantasy adult.
Like, quite honestly, the sex part is not the part that I actually would be like, this needs to go in adult fantasy.
I
agree.
It's
the, like, mental health journey.
100%, yeah.
Like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
Also the sex. But
also the sex.
Dang.
I was gonna say, I've only read 2 of them, and I've heard it just increases exponentially. And the second one was already very horny.
Yeah. The third one was, like, weirdly not horny for how horny it was.
What does that mean?
That's actually a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? That makes no sense.
You'll understand when you read it.
Yeah.
Okay, back on track.
Yeah.
I have one final question.
Okay.
And it's one that's going to make all of us angry.
Oh no.
How many copies do you think Midnight Sun sold in its first week?
Oh.
Well, see, at least in the first week, nobody would have known how bad it was.
Yeah.
And that includes pre-orders too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I think I pre-ordered it technically, which is embarrassing.
Me too, I did. Wait,
You
is it number of copies or is it amount dollar-wise?
It was number of copies, yes.
Okay, number of copies.
15,000. Based on absolutely nothing.
You're both extremely wrong.
Oh.
It was 1 million copies.
No, I refuse.
1 million?
In the first week.
Oh, and I contributed to that.
For context, Breaking Dawn, the first day sales was 1.3 million.
Man, I also contributed to that. I was in line for that book for so long, and I wore my Edward marrying shirt. And
to Bella's wedding?
Yes. Yes, Hannah. Yes. Oh my god.
That got me.
Wow, I hate that. Apologies to the other million people out there who read this book.
I mean, a lot of people liked it.
What's its rating? It's pretty high.
No, it only has a 3.73 on Goodreads.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Is it better or worse than Twilight?
Let's see. Twilight has 3.61. It's better!
Oh.
People!
No.
To be fair, though, I think a lot of people read quote-unquote Twilight just so they could rate it poorly, because that's like the thing you do.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah, also Twilight's been out for 15 years.
Yeah.
Midnight Sun's been out for 1.
Yeah, the only people... Oh, yeah, by the time this comes out, it'll be like bang on 1 year, actually.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Wow! Listen, it's we mentioned this last episode, it's like field season in our field of work, and people are moving and like stuff is happening. So we're recording this episode over a month in advance because this is when we all are on land.
Realistically, it was our mistake for deciding to do a podcast in which we all have the same field season.
Yeah. Actually, I think my field season is going to be different. I think my field season's the fall.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so happy anniversary to Midnight Sun. I'm so sorry to everybody else who has read this book in the last year.
I'm so sorry for romanticizing Edward and Bella's relationship. As somebody who is in a loving relationship now, don't aspire for Twilight. Just don't. As
someone who is single as also don't aspire to this. Being alone is better than being with Edward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so in my looking up of all these things, I found a interview in which Stephenie Meyer says that with the success of Midnight Sun, she has 2 more books in the Twilight universe planned. And I think there's rumors that one is Jacob and Renesmee, but she didn't confirm that in the interview. So maybe that one's fallen by the wayside. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
that's the
if
rumor
you guys,
I saw.
Yeah, if you guys could pick 2 books in the Twilight series to be written, what would you want them to be about?
Alice and Jasper doing literally anything. From
That's
Alice's point of view, specifically. I think that would be really interesting.
I want Rosalie's story.
That would also be very good.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. I want her, like, turning into a vampire story and, like, finding Emmett and, like, her... I like to feel pain, apparently, which is why I think I like ACOTAR so much, because the mental health struggles are, like, they hit me real hard, and I feel like Rosalie's book would be, like, just, like, full of that. And I don't know, I just, like, I just, her character, I know she's a raging bitch and, like, not super empathetic and, like, whatever to Bella, but I think her origin story would be a good book, and I feel like it would help a lot of people understand her character a little bit more.
So here's the only qualm I have with that.
Yeah.
I don't trust Stephenie Meyer to do it.
That is a fair point. That is a very fair point. If Sarah J. Maas did it, she'd do it beautifully.
Yeah, if Sarah J. Maas did it, it would be a very good book, I imagine. But I don't think Stephenie Meyer...
I don't think she could pull it off.
I don't think she's shown the skill to write like sympathetic, complex female characters who aren't good people.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree with you on that.
Yeah, but both Mel and Wanda were ultimately, like, good people, right?
Yeah, true.
Like, Wanda's whole thing was that she was perfectly good and didn't have the capacity to be anything else, despite literally being a mind-altering parasite.
Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah, I was gonna say I wanted a book that just, like, encompassed the Cullens from Carlisle to before Bella.
Yeah, that would be good too.
Which is sort of what you guys said also. Like, clearly we're all interested in, like, I want to know more about the vampire dynamics and, like, how they came together as a family.
Yeah.
I think that would be...
I would love that.
I literally give zero shits about what happened after Breaking Dawn, because in my brain, Breaking Dawn was just so bad that, like, the series ends at eclipse for me. I'm just like, Breaking Dawn does not exist.
I want a new Breaking Dawn, is what I want.
Yeah.
Yes.
Breaking Dawn from Edward's point of view.
No!
Nope.
Can you imagine how
Absolutely not.
I cannot imagine reading that chapter where they figure out that Bella is pregnant from Edward's point of view. It would be pages.
My vagina just, like, shriveled up.
Now Team Dry there.
I'm so dry. Anyway, speaking of books that I would like to read but don't trust Stephenie Meyer to do, The Wolf Pack. I think like post Breaking Dawn.
I was gonna say that too.
Yeah, like what's Leah's deal?
Not including Renesmee.
Yeah, like I want like Leah and Seth to go off and like form their own pack without Jacob, and I just want to hear about Leah Clearwater, who, if I remember correctly, is the only ever female werewolf. And like, what's up with that?
That's
as like a grown-up who is more aware of like gender than I was when I was 16. Like, is that something in there? Like, I don't know. Like, maybe she's trans and hasn't come to terms with it yet. Maybe she's like intersex or something, and that's why she was able to change into a werewolf despite people perceiving her as female. Like, that could be it could be really interesting, but I don't want Stephenie Meyer to do it, and I don't want me to do it either.
That's what, like, I was literally just gonna say. I was like, Stephenie Meyer could not ever pull that off. No.
Twilight books. Yeah. Did she say, like, which ones she was thinking of, or did she just allude to the fact that there were 2?
The article I read just alluded to 2. She said, like, I have written 1 chapter of one of them, but I'm not writing them right now. I'm like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. You know what she should be writing? Book 2 of The Host.
Oh,
Wasn't that supposed to be a trilogy? What happened to that? I think it was like The Host, The Seeker, and The Soul.
Oh.
Yeah. Or like she said she was thinking about it or something like that, and then obviously it never happened.
Imagine like writing a series as popular as Twilight and then trying to write something else and it like comparatively does terribly because nothing is ever going to be as good as Twilight if you wrote Twilight.
Yeah.
And just being like, well, I can't keep writing this one because it's garbage. It's like, no, it's not garbage. It's just like a normal book.
Yeah. And it's like so much better than Twilight.
Yeah. So the other thing because I was interested while I was looking all this up is like, it's one thing to be like, what are the numbers after this Twilight?
You and your Twilight math.
Never again.
Don't say that.
Don't say that. But I was like, you know what? I might as well just read a couple of like think pieces post Twilight to be like, let me get into the mindset.
Okay.
But I found like a couple interesting ones that sort of described like the fallout of Twilight, because we talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the show, like, well, the prologue episode.
Yes.
Where like Twilight was such an event. Because I think both of you guys mentioned that you changed reading habits after reading Twilight.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I for sure
did.
Oh, I did.
Okay. You like read a lot more vampire series after, right, Sam?
I read every single vampire series that was released between 2008 and 2010.
Dang.
You read Vampire Diaries, right?
No, I didn't because I watched the show.
Okay, well, maybe it's true in the show too then.
Okay.
Because one of the things that they mentioned is that, like, while Twilight started a bunch of things, like, the love triangle was revisited a billion times after Twilight.
Yeah.
And sort of kickstarted a new craze into supernatural stuff. But, like, a lot of things that Twilight did, media that came immediately after tried to not do or do the opposite of.
Oh.
Yeah. In the Vampire Diaries, do you find the characters, like, opposite to what the Twilight characters were? Like, specifically Bella, or...
Yeah, the female characters were definitely better in the Vampire Diaries TV show, but the entire basis of that TV show is a love triangle.
Right.
So...
Yeah, the idea was, like, they tried to pick the things that Twilight was good at.
Yeah.
And then go completely opposite on the other things.
Yeah. I don't know. I know the Vampire Diary books, from what I read, are very different from the show. And I know the show gets criticism for the main character, Elena, but I don't know. I personally think the female characters in Vampire Diaries were good. Caroline Forbes and Bonnie Bennett, both fantastic characters. Like, by the end of it, I was like, I don't give a shit about Elena. Like, I just want to watch the show with Caroline and Bonnie. So I guess with that respect, it did better, but it still definitely played on a lot of the tropes that made YA media successful in the late 2000s.
Yeah, because one of the things they mentioned was, like, before Twilight, there's a scene in Buffy where she wakes up at one point and Angel is sitting at her window. And, like, that aired before Twilight, and then Twilight caused this whole, like, oh my god, you can't just be in her room.
Yeah.
And people revisited this Buffy episode and were like, that's not okay. So for all that Twilight, you know, it was like, no, this can't happen, it made a lot of people realize it can't happen.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting having read Twilight at like the age we did and at the time that it came out. Because I don't necessarily remember how YA was different before Twilight than it is now.
Yeah.
But like I know from something that big, you don't have something that's such a massive cultural phenomenon without it changing the landscape of the part of the culture in which it originates, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I definitely don't remember reading many love triangles before Twilight, but I was also like 16 when I read Twilight and not at all interested in romance.
Yeah.
So
I still stand by what I said in either episode 1 or the prologue, that the love triangle in the Hunger Games would not have been a part of that series if it were not for Twilight. That was 100% an editor's like, oh, you need to put a love triangle in this so people will like be more invested in it. I stand by it. I don't even think Katniss should have ended up with either of them.
No.
Anyways,
wow, same as Twilight.
Yes. The Hunger Games is a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like Hunger Games in every way feels a little bit like a complete response to Twilight.
Yeah.
In like the main characters, the plot, like the political and awareness and message. Like, how can we be as different from Twilight as possible?
Yeah.
But also have a love triangle.
Yes.
But also, like, the Hunger Games had its own YA revolution, sort of, in its sense.
It created the dystopian genre, basically, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you had this spin. So you had Twilight, which created vampires, and all you had for 2 years was vampires. And then all of a sudden, Hunger Games made the shift, and then it was all dystopian for, like, God knows how long. And then now it's kind of balanced out where you kind of get everything. But I think both those series had their critical shifts in the YA genre at that time.
Yeah.
One of the other fallouts of Twilight that Hunger Games benefited from, the perennial favorite, Team X or Team Y.
Yeah.
Because that started with Twilight.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And now it's like a sports team now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They cracked it. How to do sports, but for teen girls.
Yes. Like, it's still a thing, right?
Yeah.
Are you Team Mal or Team Darkling? Is like one of the ones I keep seeing all over the place, which is buck wild. Also, if I had to pick one, I'd pick Team Nikolai. It's on Book Talk. Nikolai is the only likable male character in Shadow and Bone.
Yeah.
I feel like Shadow and Bone must be the current YA juggernaut. It's got like sort of a love triangle. It has like a kind of bland female lead who is like a little bit sassy, but like not for a really good reason. And she's like the reluctant hero. And it's super popular and not actually that good.
But Shadow and Bone has been out for years.
Yeah, it's having a moment with
the
TV show.
Surge.
It is weird.
I can't explain it.
Yeah, that one was a sleeper. Like, it took a little while to get everyone's attention.
Yeah, it feels like there was some weird marketing campaign
there must have
push recently. Maybe when they started the TV show in production, they started like pushing for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know. One of the other interesting fallouts that I hadn't really heard of, other than the one book, was that there was a whole new publishing genre after Twilight of the pull to publishing fanfiction.
Oh.
It's called pull to publishing or filing off the serial numbers.
Okay.
Which is what 50 Shades did, right? Where it started as a Twilight fanfiction.
Right.
And then she just removed any Twilight references and published it. Yeah. Which apparently like what is a whole thing. Like there's an entire publishing house built up by a Twilight fandom.
Oh.
That is now a legit publishing house.
Well, wasn't Cassandra Clare's first book was a Harry Potter fanfiction that she reskinned, right?
It was.
We don't need to go into more detail about what kind of Harry Potter fanfiction it was.
I don't want to, because I still really like the Shadowhunter Chronicles as much as it pains me to know the origins of it.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I don't know what it is.
Oh, you don't?
I need to know now.
Sam?
Tell me.
Yeah, so City of Bones was originally a Ron and Ginny fanfic.
No.
Yeah.
I knew it was gonna be that because that's why I hated. I
Yeah.
couldn't read it because it was almost siblings.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah,
so
it's a
much.
big problem.
The very last thing I wanted to say about the fallout of the Twilight fandom is that there's like this entire generation of people who either were like super fans of Twilight or just were in that era who like I think because everyone loves to shit on stuff that teen girls like.
Yeah.
That they like maybe Sam could speak to this, just like constantly had to defend it to other people.
Oh yeah.
That now like there's so many people who are just absolutely unapologetic about enjoying YA and romance, right? Like I would say 10 years ago it was super like you could not talk about how you read romance.
Yeah.
Or that you read YA as an adult. Like, oh no, God forbid. But now like people are just being like, yeah, I read romance. Yeah, I read YA.
Yeah.
Fight me.
Yeah, I remember when I was in like undergrad and I was dating people, I would not bring up that I liked reading, that I liked Twilight. Like I literally would try to hide the fact that like I was a Twilighter, quote unquote. Now you can definitely be like a lot more open about it.
This might be completely off the mark, but especially in the last like 15 years, the world has gone so much to that I don't really have the energy to be super judgy about like what kind of books people read anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, there are bigger things to worry about. Like, oh, you like Twilight? That's fine. But like, do you feel the need to put a single onion in a produce bag? Because that's a bigger issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The world has gone to I have read so many more romance novels this year than I have in any previous year. And it's 100% just because like romance is just so easy. You know exactly what you're getting into. You know that there's going to be like an emotional growth. There's going to be a struggle at some point, and then there's going to be a happy ending. Like it doesn't matter. It's just exactly what I needed this year to read a lot of romance novels, and I did.
I love romance books. I
So
love
good.
YA books. I love fantasy books, and I love sci-fi books.
Wow.
No judgment.
I'm starting to realize I don't think I like YA books.
Yeah, I'm having
fair.
the same realization.
That's fair.
It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah,
actually.
They're just kind of all over the place. Also, I don't like reading about 16-year-olds.
Yeah, I think that's the one that's been getting me.
I think I am more okay with like YA fantasy than I am with contemporary. Like I've recently read a couple of like YA contemporaries. I'll talk about one at the end of this. But the other one I read recently was You Should See Me in a Crown.
Oh, I read that.
I didn't like it, but it's not because of an issue with the book. It's because I'm way too old for giving a single shit about what happens at prom.
No, that's how I felt reading it too. I was just like, this is a good book, but like I will never read it again. But I don't feel like it deserves a lower rating because there are so many people or young teens out there who need this book. But I am 100% not the target audience for this book.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it at all, but I was like this would be great if I was 10 years younger. Yeah. Especially if like it's about a bisexual Black girl. So I'm like, if I was one of those populations who are like super underrepresented in popular YA literature, right?
Yeah.
I think it's super important for underrepresented groups to get to have those like super cliche, predictable, like kind of boring high school romance books. Because everybody deserves to have those. It's just, I don't want any of them, regardless of who the protagonist is at this point. I think we're getting too old for YA, you guys.
I'm turning 30 in September, and I think that's when I have to hand in the towel. I'll read them for the podcast, but I think I'm not allowed to like reading about 16-year-olds for sure once I'm 30.
Yeah. It just starts to get a little unrelatable when you're old.
Weird.
Yeah. But with that in mind, the thing I really wanted to talk about today is how Midnight Sun could have been good. So I want to talk about how we, 3 people who are not the target demographic for YA, but are the target demographic for anything reemerging from Twilight. Midnight Sun was bad. I think we can fix it.
I don't think anyone can fix it because Edward is the worst.
Yeah, but Edward doesn't have to be the worst.
But he's the worst in Twilight. So how would we fix that? We'd have to rewrite the whole story.
I think the main issue, or the main thing we could do with that, is making him more self-aware and like more empathetic, or I guess like taking it all the way in the other direction, having it be like he's having like vampire instincts that he's having a really difficult time controlling, and not justifying it, and that he's like he has to be in his room because he's protecting her or whatever, but like have it be a very like, not to be too Sarah J Maas about this, but have it be like very kind of a feral thing where it's like, I feel like I need to be here, or like I'm going to burn or something like that. I know this is irrational. I need to be here because
like if he
our mating bond or whatever.
Yeah, like if he, blacks out for a second and suddenly he's in Bella's room,
Yeah.
Yeah, like he tries to stay away, but he'll just like find himself when he's not paying attention, he'll be like at Bella's house.
Yeah. Really lean into that
in like
horror aspect.
A very creepy way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly think it would have been better if I mentioned this at one point, if we got like a harder crash for Edward at the end.
Yeah.
Like it almost would have been better to see Edward fall farther at the end of Midnight Sun to lead into New Moon.
Right.
Because in Midnight Sun, he basically just like vacillates. And then there's like 4 pages where he's like, actually, maybe we can be happy. And then he goes right back into being like, no, we can't.
Yeah.
So if we'd had like a longer stretch in the book where he was like, planning for the future, like actually, being happy, then the end would have been so much more impactful and would have made me believe New Moon more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically a higher high and then a lower low would have made it way more interesting. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, like if there had been a point, I guess, more with like the meadow scene and that whole period where he kind of flips and does the like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, I don't care if it's not good for her. Like, we both want this. We're going to make it work. I've never felt this way before. This is amazing. I'm going to figure out anything. Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep this feeling. And then have that going into even like all the way up to the ballet studio. Like, even while they're chasing James, I'm going to eliminate this threat and then we can be together and it'll be fine, and like have that kind of delusion going until he gets in there and finds out that she's been bitten and then has to make that decision on the spot of like, what do I do now? I think that could have been really interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot more emotionally impactful for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to build up like why Edward a lot of things just had to be clearer up front. Say why Edward doesn't want Bella to be a vampire. Like it needs to be clearer. Everything needs to be clearer.
Yeah. And then also just less of Edward being in Edward's head and more of Edward observing what's happening around him would have been nice.
Yeah.
On like a structural level. Like, you spend so much time just in Edward's head and he's not paying attention to what's going on. He's not thinking about anybody but himself or Bella, and that's all it is, and it's just rehashing the like same few issues over and over again. And like we talked about throughout this podcast, the parts where we get out of Edward's head are the best. Like the parts where he's engaging with his family, the like action scenes where they're driving really fast on the highway or chasing James through the woods, where Edward has something to focus on that isn't just his own self-deprecation and how much he loves Bella more than she loves him. Including more outside of Edward could have actually made this a very good book.
Yup.
Edward.
Ugh.
I hate that guy.
He's really
just the worst.
Hate it. Yeah, honestly, I don't I think the book should have been about 200 pages shorter than it was.
Yep.
The hobo spider will forever live in my heart.
And in Bella's room.
And in Bella's room. And yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I just don't. You know what would have made the book so much better?
What?
I was right up until the end. I was holding out for Stephenie Meyer to actually pull a fast one on us, and Bella gets turned into a vampire at the end of Midnight Sun.
That's what I wanted.
I wanted that so badly, so badly. Oh my god!
That would
just
have
been
funny.
like, psych.
It would have been so good.
It would have been.
Oh, people love new timelines. Like, she could have been like, and it, Bella's a vampire now. Now what? I'm gonna write 4 more books.
Exactly.
You know what else she could have done, even like to preserve the timeline that she has, and also to tie in with the movies? She could have done a Breaking Dawn, the movie part 2 in Midnight Sun, where you get like 3 chapters or so of they don't get to Bella in time. She gets turned into a vampire. Edward has to like watch her suffer and struggle, and then like come to terms with the fact that she's a newborn vampire now, and like they're in Dantan Phoenix. Maybe she has a harder time like controlling the bloodlust or whatever. And then you realize that it's Alice's vision that like she is having and showing to Edward like as he arrives in Phoenix to go save Bella.
Oh damn.
See,
like
that would have kept me interested, because then I would have been like, wait, what the
so
what are you doing, Stephenie Meyer? Like, that would have kept me invested. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like even though they did it to us in Breaking Dawn, and if you're reading Midnight Sun, chances are you've probably seen the Breaking Dawn movies. I would have fallen for it too. I would have been like, oh my god, what is she doing? Did she change the story? Like, where is this going? Yeah. It could have been quite the bait and switch.
Yeah. Okay, I take it back. That would have, that could have improved it. Yep.
It still wouldn't be worth the first 400 pages of Edward.
Yeah.
But, like, I probably would have given it a higher rating if it had ended on, like, a stronger, shocking note like that.
Yeah.
If Stephenie Meyer had ended the book with Bella actually turning into a vampire, I might have rated it like 4 stars.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Would have been worth it. For the rest of the book could have been the same. Yeah. But I would have been like, what a power move. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I fucking love this.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I would, same.
So other than Edward just being the worst, is that like the crux of the issue, that she didn't take any risks in writing Midnight Sun? It's just like exactly what you think it's going to be. There's no twists, no turns. There's like a few little things about Charlie and Renee's mental voices and a few like tiny little details like that that are added in. But other than that, there's absolutely no part of this that you can't predict.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I would blame the fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm sure she felt like she couldn't add new content, right? Like, I'm sure everyone was screaming, like, I want exactly Twilight, but from Edward's perspective. And so she's like, well, the interview I read, she was like, I'm not writing any more from Edward's perspective because Twilight was, like, writing between prison bars. And it's like,
yeah.
Like,
I believe that.
Like, it would suck to have to revisit a book he wrote 10 years ago and rewrite the exact same book.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still think she should have not done that and, like, followed the same general story, but given us those extra scenes, like, given us different dialogue or, like, different parts of the conversation. I know we've said this before, even in the same episode.
Yeah.
But,
like,
gosh.
imagine a Midnight Sun that started when Edward was turned into a vampire.
Ooh.
And Twilight was, like, 4 chapters of it.
Ooh.
Or even, like, started when the Cullens moved to Forks.
Yeah.
And, like, you have a couple chapters really establishing the family, like, as it is before Bella arrives.
Yeah.
And, like, how Edward... Because, like, you get a lot of hearing about how Edward has been. It's a lot of telling you, like, oh, Edward has always been sad. Edward has always been distant. Edward has always, like, seemed kind of aloof. Esme has always wished that, like, Edward had somebody who loved him the same way she loves Carlisle. The whole thing with writing that they tell you when you're, like, just trying to learn how to write is you show, don't tell, and all she does in this book is tell and not show.
Yeah.
See, this is why both of you are like the writers on this podcast and I'm not, because literally both of you just like saved that book in like very feasible ways that I would have been like, yes, I will read that. Whereas I'm just here like, no, there's nothing that could fix this. Nothing.
Sophie and I are going to rewrite this book, and Sam is going to be our test audience to make sure we actually did it right.
Yeah. The real thing is that this is why Hannah and I have like 10,000 story ideas and no finished books.
Yeah. I just abandoned the one I was working on to start a new one.
Yep. Who has the time?
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway,
not us.
I think that about wraps it up, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've said a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
We've talked enough about these books, except for what we're doing next time.
Yes.
Which is going to be very fun.
Yes.
And then after that, yeah, we got some other stuff coming up. So stay tuned, because the podcast isn't ending. We're just changing the cover art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, normally at this point, we say what we think is going to happen next, and we can't say that because it's a surprise for next time. But after that, we talk about what books we're reading. So, as I said, I finally finished, or caught up, I guess, since it's not done yet. But I caught up on the Sarah J. Maas A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I had read A Court of Mist and Fury like so long ago, and then I just never read the next book. So I read the third and fourth book this week, and I really liked A Court of Silver Flames, and not because of all the horny bits. It was a really good book. I was like live texting through a lot of it. The first half was a lot. There were just a lot of sex scenes in the first half of the book.
Yeah, you made me very concerned. I don't know.
I warned you both.
Oh my god. Sam warned me, and I went into it way too cavalier. Like, I had to put the book down at a couple of points, being like, it's daylight. I can't read this during the daylight. People can see me.
Yeah.
But I like the end of the book kind of blew me away. Like, it's a really good series. I am firmly on the train that Sarah J. Maas is an excellent author for teen girls to read.
Yeah.
And me, I guess.
It's so horny though.
Well, okay, but Throne of Glass is the one I mostly think they should read first.
Yeah.
And then when they're done it and they're like a little bit older, like 16 or 17, then they can read.
Gotcha.
Yes.
The other ones.
I agree with that.
Listen, everyone asks for consent all the time. So, like, realistically, that's all I can ask for a book that teens can read with sex in it.
That's fair.
It's got consent, but it also shows that girls can like sex and it's okay.
Yeah.
Because
there's a lot of positivity.
Yeah.
Unlike certain other books we've read, Sarah J. Maas does an excellent job of characterizing female characters.
Oh, so good.
They're great. Anyway, that's what I read this week. What about you guys?
I don't even know how to respond to this, because like by the time this comes out, it's like, but what I'm reading right now is like the same thing I was reading in the June and July episodes. I'm still reading Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I'm still reading Hail Mary by Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is June, and I'm still reading Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. So if I'm being realistic, by the time this comes out, I'm hoping to be reading something off my pirate TBR. So maybe I'll be reading The Pirate's King's Daughter or Lies of Loch Lamora?
Oh my god. I'm so excited.
Oh my god. I hope you like
read that book.
Yeah, so I don't really have anything new to say per se. I'll just say Words of Radiance is so fucking good. And like Brandon Sanderson is just great, but his books are so fucking long.
You know what other book you could be reading, Sam, is our Miglight book club book for August.
Oh, that's true.
We're recording this in June, but it's coming out in August. True. And our August book of the month is Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. It's the first book in a fantasy trilogy, which we are all fans of fantasy trilogies. Yeah. So looking forward to that.
We gotta stop book clubbing first books of series.
We really do.
Yeah.
We really do.
It's such a problem.
It's a big problem.
So I finished the book I was reading this morning, an ebook. It was Camp by Elsie Rosen, and it is a YA contemporary about a 16-year-old boy going to queer camp, and he has reinvented himself in a more masculine light to try to get the attention of the boy of his dreams, who also goes to camp. Similar to You Should See Me in a Crown, which I was talking about earlier, it's definitely not for me. I think this is probably going to be a good book for queer teenagers. But the whole, like the first 3/4 of it are just the main character getting like deeper and deeper into the lies of this character he's invented to try to attract this boy.
Oh god.
And it's so uncomfortable to read. Like, the ending is really cute, and it has a really good message about like how important it is, especially for like queer youth who are often kind of suppressed in their identities, how important it is to be yourself, but also to make sure you're doing that in a way and in a place that is safe for your specific circumstances. So I think that's really important. I could not read this book again. It was very difficult for me to get past the constant piling on of the story that the main character invented to get a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yes, it was cute. I also haven't read this yet, but in the spirit of Goodreads, I won a Goodreads giveaway for The Maker's Field Guide by Christopher Armstrong, which is like supposed to be basically the how-to manual to build anything you want with commonly available tools and shops. Thanks for sending me that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was so stoked. If you liked this chapter of Miglight Crisis and you're curious to see what we're going to be doing next, consider rating and reviewing us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. You can talk to us and find fun-related content on social media. We are at Miglight Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and all chapters of the show thus far are available on our website, midlightpod.podbean.com, and on YouTube. And as Sophie mentioned, keep an eye out for our new cover art. It's really good. I'm a big fan.
I spent so many seconds on it.
And in the words of Hannah in her Goodreads review of Midnight Sun, reading this actually makes Twilight worse.
I mean, I'm right.
You are very right.
So true. I hate Edward Cullen so much.
Wow.
Cullen.
Edward Cullen.